Hi, my name is Elizabeth Moon, and this is my back to school night presentation for English 2. Let's go ahead and get started. So, a little bit about me. I got my bachelor's degree from San Diego State University and my credential from Sac State University. A couple of years ago, I went back to school again and got my master's degree at Fresno State. I've been teaching since 2008. I actually started out as an elementary school teacher and found I really enjoyed teaching middle and high school. So I've been teaching high school in Avid since 2012, and I joined the Casa Roble family in spring of 2015 and have been here ever since. You can see a little picture of my family there. I have 3 kiddos, and my husband teaches at Bella Vista High School. A little bit about COVID guidelines before we start talking about the class structure. One of the rules the district has implemented is that masks must be worn properly indoors at all times. And for some students, that can be a bit challenging at times. So far, we've been working hard at reminding them and teaching them, but any help you can give them at home too to remind them of how masks should be properly worn would be really helpful. I'm also working hard to make sure that we don't spread germs by having students turn in most of their assignments online and rather than by paper. And we don't have all of the water fountains on campus on right now, so it can be hard for students to find a place to get a drink of water. So I highly recommend that you have your student bring a water bottle that they can refill at the water bottle fillers on campus. So I know it says honors up there, but the curriculum emphasis for English 2 is the same. The standards are the same as well. So in English 2, they students are going to read literature and do a lot of literary response and analysis. Right now, we're doing short fiction. In fact, this week we're doing The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. We'll read poetry and some nonfiction, play a play possibly if we get to it. We'll see. If we do get to it, it will be Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. And the novels we'll read are Lord of the Flies and Night. We also work on writing, specifically narrative argument and literary analysis. And we work on listening and speaking skills, and we'll do partner and group discussions. We've already done some of that, in fact. We'll do some presentations, and if we get to the play, we'll do a dramatic interpretation, and then, of course, note taking. The curriculum emphasis for vocabulary is that we work to teach students how to determine the meaning of vocabulary in the context of what they're reading from the text. And then we also do a little work with root words and word parts, just review. We also do a fair amount of reflection. We track the progress on goals that they've set for themselves, specifically with independent reading. So as I said, the independent reading program in my classroom runs the entire class. I know some teachers just do a unit or they just have students read at the beginning of class, but I have students read 2 hours a week, and we read every day at the beginning of class. It's very important in my philosophy of teaching. And here are some reasons based on research why I put so much emphasis on independent reading. First of all, obviously, reading increases your intelligence. It improves your vocabulary and writing ability. It increases empathy, reduces stress. And if your student doesn't have a habit of reading before bed, it does help improve sleep. So you might consider chatting with your student about trying to implement that. And most importantly, if your student is going to college, we want to have them prepared for that. Reading increases that stamina necessary to read the amount of required reading that college freshmen have, which can be anywhere from 200 to 600 pages a week. And with independent reading, the goal is always improving from where they are right now. So if you want to help out at home, here's some ways to help your teen read more. You can just encourage them to read together, give books as gifts, talk with your teen about books, taking your student to the library, the bookstore, and setting up that quiet reading time as part of the daily routine. Or if you would like, you could give a book talk. Now, obviously, it's a little more difficult to come on campus this year, but I'm sure if you're interested in sharing what you're reading with the students in my class, we can work something out through video or Zoom. And homework in my class, students will be doing independent reading every week, like I said, 2 hours a week outside of class. They can set that up however they like, but I always encourage them to do 20 to 30 minutes a day outside of class. They will also be expected to finish any in-class assignments that they didn't finish in class. And occasionally they'll need to work on projects or essays that they didn't finish in class. In my class, grades are broken up into 2 categories and weighted differently. So you can see the first category is assessments or published writing, and that carries 80% of the weight of their grade. So anything that falls at the end of a unit where I expect them to show what they know is going to go into that category. Everything leading up to that, the things that I'm having them do to practice and refine and polish their skills, that will go into the classwork and homework category, that 20%. And students do receive letter grades for their academic and citizenship grades. So I don't accept late classwork typically. I have deadlines posted on Google Classroom, and I give students a lot of time to work in class. So if a student is missing that, it's because they haven't been taking advantage of their class time. If I have a student with a unique circumstance, I encourage them to talk to me about that, and often I will give a little bit of grace. But I want to spend most of my grading time focusing on those summative items and on giving feedback on writing so that students can improve. And in order for me to give that feedback in a timely manner, I can't be bogged down with little late classwork assignments. So that's why my policy is no late classwork accepted. Again, though, if your student has a unique circumstance, I encourage them to talk to me about it. And if you want to email me about it, I'm happy to hear from you. And usually willing to give some grace, but as a rule of thumb, no late classwork accepted. And I do accept late writing assignments. Those tend to be the bigger essays. And sometimes students get a little overwhelmed with it, especially if it's their first essay, and sometimes hit some writer's block. So I understand how sometimes it can be hard to get those in on time. I do accept late writing in those circumstances, but I have the student fill out what's called a late assignment request form. And those I'll have posted on my Google Classroom once our first writing assignment comes due. And I'll also have them available in class for students. So they can turn it in late if they fill out that form, but they do need to turn it in within 2 weeks of that deadline. And the only reason why I take it is because those writing assignments do go into their assessment category, that 80%. And I do want to know what they know. I want them to show me what they know. So that's why I still accept it. If a student is caught cheating or plagiarizing, it's an automatic F on the assignment. Again, I can give some grace in this area depending on what the extent of the plagiarism was. So if a student takes an essay from another student and passes it off as their essay, they're going to get an F on that assignment. If a student just doesn't cite something properly, I'm going to have them change that and resubmit it because I want them to learn what proper citation is and how to avoid plagiarism. And if a student is absent, any assignments do need to be turned in as soon as they return, or they can be turned in virtually on Google Classroom. Then they don't get behind. And then generally the number of days absent equals the number of days a student has to make up missing work. But it would be a much better thing if they just keep up with the class, if they're on quarantine or something like that, and turn things in on Google Classroom. That's about it. If you have any questions or concerns at any time, I really welcome open communication. So please contact me by email. My email is elizabeth.moon@sanjuan.edu. And if we need to chat further, I'm happy to set up an appointment for us to meet via Zoom or by phone. Thank you so much for coming to my virtual back to school night.